They also have the expertise to be able to recognize the problems that will be incorporated if you move forward with some steps that may not act with parts of the system, or the system may not interact with the end user the way that they wanted it to. Another area was managing products and services. One of the recent examples that I have of that I was able to utilize some of the skills I had gained through my MBA studies was in our hospital that I'm currently over the education system there. We had bought about $50,000 worth of PCA pumps. PCA pumps are patient-controlled analgesic pumps, which gives you the little button that you push when you're finished with surgery and you're in pain, so that it gives you your little dose of pain. So when you get that dose of pain, that's all very carefully controlled by a pump system into the IV. In order to just purchase those pumps had been purchased before I came to consult with a hospital. Those pumps did not interact with the company's contracted pharmacology services. So that was a big, huge hurdle that we had to overcome once I was there, that we had to be able to integrate those, because the pump has to read if this is morphine that is 5 milligrams to 1 milliliter of fluid, or if it's 1 milligram of morphine to 1 milliliter of fluid. So in order to be able to do that, we had to tie the software in, as well as the UPC reader on the side of the vials of the pump, so that it could read the different medications that was there. And when we got the pumps there, even the pumps had problems. They failed the quality tests that our on-site biomedical engineers were doing. It was a lot of different problems that had all been started by lack of originally doing some really good research into the pump that they bought to make sure that it would fulfill their needs, and it didn't. And so as I came in and worked with those products, we were able to integrate and get the right kinds of people connected into that. And I found out that one of my strengths was to be able to integrate across departments and be able to talk to people in biomedical engineering, as well as the nurses on the floor, as well as the people in materials management, to order the right parts. Part of the reason that the pumps failed was because materials management had ordered the wrong tubing. They had ordered the 0.01 millimeters instead of the 0.03 millimeter tubing, and the company that sold those to us hadn't picked up the fact that that was the wrong tubing for the pumps that we had purchased. So we were using the wrong tubing. Simple solution, but it was difficult to find the problem. So that was one of the projects that helped me understand the strengths that I gained in that area. Managing technology and innovation was another one. That's always a challenge for a coming of the minds. With the different ages that are in business, everyone from ready to retire to just out of high school ages, there's a lot of variety, especially with the Gen X society and the baby boomers and the Gen Y groups that are at very different values and very different learning techniques, and the way that they interact with others is very different. Both of multiple areas in society have strengths, and one of the things that I brought to a company was to be able to bring technology into their older baby boomer workforce was What's Hot for Lunch program. And what we did was every Wednesday for lunch, we would have a set time in the cafeteria. We would have a podium with a stand, and anyone who found something that was new and hot in technology could just come up and share that. They could have handouts or flyers or magazine prints or internet link or whatever they found that was hot in technology or they thought was new or cool, whether it applied to the business or not, was rewarded with a lunch ticket. So what we found was that we just videotaped those every week on Wednesdays, and we could quickly come up with 8 to 10 different ideas of technology, and then we could at least have a tab of what was new. Sometimes those would be things that we could use internally. Sometimes those would be competitors' edges that we would be able to tune into. And sometimes those would be things that we could incorporate into our IS or computer services, or the way our end users were using things, simple as applications that we could be able to utilize. But that was an easy, inexpensive way to be able to find out what was going on in the system for the older folks, because they're not as in tune to using technology sometimes as the younger generations are. Another area was accessing the competitive environment, assessing the competitive environment. It's very, very important to understand what's going on in the industry as well as the government regulations that can affect that. In healthcare right now, we're under huge amounts of turmoil and change that are up and coming. Lots of distrust in the government. Distrust is turning into problems between the insurers and the payers, as well as the providers of physicians. So there's a lot of watching people's own backs right now and being very protective of turf. So it's very, very important to watch what's going on in the world and the domestic political issues, as well as what's going on within the business industry itself. So one of the examples that taught me maybe my weakness in this area was when we were working with some products that would roll out to United Healthcare. United Healthcare was currently involved with some negotiations with Citrix, which was another company that was looking into joining them when United is very, very large and one of the big competitors in health insurance. And so when that merger was being talked about, there was no progress being made because if they went ahead and merged with the other company, the product that we were working with them to provide would have been not needed because of the product that the other company would bring to the table. So they, when I found that out, or when our company found that out, we were able to put on hold some of our work that was costing money, that would have been resources that we would have spent uselessly if United would have merged with the other company. So that was one thing that taught me that it's really important to understand what's going on in the environments and the companies and different politics, because it can cost you financially if you're not aware of what's going on. We were able to put a hold on some of the production issues, some of the programming that we were doing to customize the product, and then we were able to pick that up as soon as those negotiations were called off. So that was a good understanding. Excuse me. Bringing new products to the market is always an important aspect. Those often roll into understanding your competitors as well as keeping on top of technology, as well as understanding what the government resources are. So that's a really important part. Planning for the future is one of the most important things in the CIO and the CTO's jobs. Those are very important about bringing those different resources to meet with the business plans and the business expenditures so that they can be met in the future. You can't pull out of a hat a very large computer system that's going to be technically capable of supporting a specific application in 3 to 5 years if you have no idea what's going on with the application and if you have no idea what is needed in those systems. You have to have different resources and programmers, different personnel in place. You have to have different hard wiring and different hardware and software in place to run those. You have to have the experience to run those so that when the programs are developed that you have the resources to fulfill those needs. And that's one of the hardest things to plan for the future. The financial forecasting and planning that goes into that is very difficult also because those things are very expensive, and if you take the wrong road and you have already spent your budget on something that's not going to be panning out for you or not going to be able to support your client's needs, then that's an important failure that will cause major problems for stockholders down the road. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. You have to be able to have a sustainable solution for anything that you plan. So not only does it have to be sustainable for your company, you have to be able to support it, but you also have to be able to support the company that you're selling it to.